What up, guys? Welcome to today's Jiu-Jitsu podcast episode number. It's a lot. I don't even
298.
290. I don't even know why we even count them anymore. It's just so many. But
That's a
it's
lot.
like it's a ton. It's like the Joe Rogan podcast. They're up to like
Uh,
thousands. It's like, why are you
I
even
know.
counting it? Why are you counting anymore? It's not like they did the because I feel like Joe Rogan's this era is like Larry King Live.
Yeah.
Larry King show. It's like it wasn't like Larry King episode number 75,000, right? It was just like, it's Larry King with so and so.
Yeah. I think it's
Anyways,
impressive though. I
oh,
like that. I like the numbers. It shows endurance and consistency.
that it does. Appreciate you guys being here today. We have a fun guest, fun conversation with him, a guy named Johnny Buck. So Johnny Buck is my doppelganger. If you
That's right.
guys follow us on social media at various times throughout the year, we'll post something silly about us being the same person, or I've even had people who have taken pictures with Johnny Buck, then tag me in them saying, "Oh man, it was really cool meeting Jiu-Jitsu today," because it's kind of an ongoing gag. And if I'm correct, he's also had people come up to him and ask to take a picture because they really like his YouTube videos.
That's right.
And then he has to like tell them, "I'm not Chewy." And they're perplexed. But anyway, fun guy. He wrestled, you'll find out more about this in a bit, wrestled in college, got into jiu-jitsu, fought it at MMA, made it to Bellator, fought there for a bit, and done some stuff in jiu-jitsu, won some tournaments and things like that, of course, won some decent titles, and runs a gym over in Asheville, North Carolina. And
Yep.
so again, super cool dude. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. If you're a gym owner, we start this one off with kind of a business sort of talk. We sort of jump into it, and we start talking about a little bit about business. Even if you're not a gym owner, I think there's the ideas that are still powerful regardless of what sort of career you're in, because the ideas of culture and things like that, they transcend any
Yeah.
particular like industry or niche. I mean, culture is everything as far as a business or a team is concerned. And so again, I think it's a fun conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it, and then we'll get into obviously the jiu-jitsu training aspects towards the end of or towards the middle of the episode and on until the end. So hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast. As always, thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast come to your ears every single week. Charlotte's Web. charlottesweb.com is the website. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu30, CHEWJITSU30 for 30% off your order. Again, Charlotte's Web is one of the premier CBD companies out there. There's so many companies. It's not regulated by the FDA, which again, I have some beefs with the FDA, and I think in some ways they're very crooked. But in some ways they're important because, again, like here's an example. Back in the day, they thought that like radioactive stuff was actually healthy for you,
Hmm.
right? Like there were all these different like over-the-counter tonics and medicine that people would have that oh, it's got radium in it. I think radium was the thing. It was like they were putting radium in all kinds of stuff.
Radium.
Radium. It's like
Huh.
if I'm correct, it's radium. I could be wrong, but it's radioactive stuff. But I think it's
Yeah.
radium. And so they would put it into everything because they're like, it's great for you, And there were several different lawsuits that happened where these people had to battle up against these massive corporations who were like trying to like say, keep your mouth shut, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Even one guy who was like the owner of this company who actually believed these radioactive chemicals were good for him. He died of like cancer in his face because obviously he's taking radioactive supplements all day long.
Yeah.
So anyway, that said, so there are some good parts to the FDA because obviously, they're like, hey, radioactive stuff is bad for you. We're not going to
That's
sell
right.
this over the counter anymore. So Coca-Cola cannot have cocaine, or 7-Up can no longer have lithium. It's like, again, this is all stuff like there was a reason why they actually created it. And so again, one of the good parts is that somewhat crooked organization at times is that they will say, hey, listen, this supplement has to be up to a certain standard, right? And so again, CBD is not in that ballpark yet. One of the cool things is like when Eugene and I actually went down to Charlotte's Web's farm back in 2021, they actually were showing us around and we were talking to them, and like all the people are geeking out about making an amazing product. If you read the story about how Charlotte's Web got started to support a family with a young girl who had epileptic seizures, right? And how important the purity of a product and selling good stuff is to them. it's very important. And whenever the FDA regulations come for this product, which is going to happen eventually, they'll be ready because they're already doing everything required to make sure it's a good product. And so again, if you've never tried CBD, if you've tried it before, maybe you didn't feel much, I encourage you to try Charlotte's Web's product. Find one that you want. Maybe it's the gummies, maybe it's the tincture, whatever it is, the eyedropper. I didn't know that was called a tincture. It's like an eyedropper. You can get it whenever you get there for 30% off at charlottesweb.com. Promo code Jiu-Jitsu 30% off. Also, thanks to our buddy, Matt at Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Again, Matt makes some terrific products, cool gear, everything from t-shirts, rash guards, no-gi shorts, gis, everything jiu-jitsu related he makes. And I really like his products. I'm wearing one of his shirts now, and not because I'm trying to like, I'm not trying to, I'm not, what's that?
I've got a little hoodie.
You got the hoodie? Yeah. And I'm not wearing his shirt, by the way. And I shared this with you, and this is 100% honest. I'm not wearing his shirt right now because I'm trying to sell you on the shirt. If you don't buy his stuff, that's fine. I don't care. I'm letting you know because he's a sponsor of the podcast. But like, I literally will reach in and, you're looking through your shirts and you're like, well, which shirt do I want to wear? Well, today I wanted a soft, comfortable shirt, and I have some of those, but his was on top, and I was like, soft, comfortable shirt it is. Boom, put it on. Epic Roll BJJ shirt, fine with me. He also has good customer service, and his no-gi stuff, I'm a big fan of the quality of it. He's getting ready to send out a bunch of no-gi gear here to my gym, to my students. I had my gym's no-gi stuff made by him because I like what he does. And so again, if you guys want to check out any of his gear products, check him out at epicrollbjj.com. That's the website. And if you want to save 20% off your order, say you get like a new pair of no-gi rash guards and shorts or whatever, Chewjitsu 20 is 20% off. So again, that's how you save it. Put that code in at the checkout, and you'll save 20% off your order. Also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, get an ad-free version of this podcast so you don't have to hear these ad reads if you don't like them, and get access to an exclusive library of content that Eugene and I have been building that has everything from narrated roles, warm-up routines, to also guest segments with each one of the guests that we've had on our podcast for the last several years. You can get access to that for an incredibly inexpensive price for what's in there at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. So again, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. You'll get access to it, and we update it regularly every week with some piece of content. Sometimes, again, that's me and Eugene talking about an idea for you to chew on. But in most cases, it's a guest segment with one of our guests talking about a useful idea for Jiu-Jitsu that you can tangibly, or you can add into your game that has some tangible benefit to your training and progression. And guys, if you would like to get my daily email and get access to a bunch of exclusive offers that I don't really release anywhere else, such as right now, I'm selling out the registration to my upcoming Jiu-Jitsu camps this year in 2024. Now, basically the way this works is the people on my email list and the people who came to the camps previously, they always get first crack at it. And we're not even halfway through the week, and they're almost like they're about at 3/4 capacity. So again, I don't think that I'll have to.
Wow.
I might have some space. I don't think I'll have to really. Well, to be fair, I also keep these camps relatively small because I want people to be able to like get to hang out and chat and get to know me a little bit more, opposed to, hey, we've sold out a bazillion spots and you don't actually get to talk to the guy that you know what I mean? So I keep them relatively small and intimate for that reason. But still, they're almost sold out already. And so again, I don't know if I'm even going to make it to social media with the registration. And again, so there's a lot of stuff like that never sees the social media, that I only share through email. And some of it is special offers. Some of it's like just stuff I'm finding interesting, like books and things like that. Because again, there's really no incentive like to share some of that stuff on social media, because it's not something that's, what's the word? I'm not creating some crazy drama. It's not going to be favored by the algorithmic overlords, right? So, but again, still that said, when I share a book that I'm reading, a lot of people get a lot of benefit from it. Like I recently shared a book with someone that I was reading that I found a lot of benefit from a philosophical standpoint. They went out and bought it, and they're like, dude, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing it. But anyway, if you want to get access to my daily email where I do all this stuff and more, you can get access to it at my website, jiujitsu.net/join, JOIN. And when you join, I'll give you a couple free gifts of ebooks that are for your jiu-jitsu training, some ideas to chew on that could help you progress with your jiu-jitsu and with your competitions. And then on top of that, you'll get my daily email. And then if for some reason, if you're not digging it, you're like, Chew, I don't like this, you can unsubscribe with one click at any time, and I'll never send you an email ever again. And so, guys, with that said, thank you so much for joining us. Let's jump into this podcast with Johnny Buck. How you been, bro?
Good, man. Good. Been wide open, but doing well.
Wide open? How do you mean?
The gym's going wide open. Just confirmed I'm starting a plumbing company this year
Oh, nice.
with a buddy of mine. So I've hit about the top of what I can do at the gym now, as far as without moving. And I got 4 more years of my lease, so we're gonna kind of focus there a little bit, and then just see what's next.
Without moving in, without trying to like completely hose your students out of money.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're probably the most expensive gym in town, but it's also by far the most value you're going to get. Like, we care about you. It's weird.
What do you think gives your gym value, like opposed to some other gyms? What sets you apart?
So, from a business standpoint, we actually call the people back who are interested in training. I focus primarily on. What I finally figured out after years of doing it wrong was that nobody really cares about competing. Let's say me and 3 other people.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. I literally started my gym because of I had an ugly lawsuit with my ex-business partner. I lost the gym I was in with him, and I was still fighting in Bellator, so I had to have a place to train. So we started training, and I tailored it to fighters, and that was it. All 18 of us over the course of 4 years. But then I realized the big thing to me was like the vast majority of people do jiu-jitsu or MMA or whatever for not competition reasons. We had a guy come into the gym yesterday. He had no clue what jiu-jitsu was, but he wanted to try it.
Yeah.
So we started tailoring to basically using jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or MMA, whatever it is, to help you achieve your goals. It's just a vehicle of what we're doing right now. So that's been the biggest thing. And we actually operate like a business, not a club. Which has been a really big benefit to our members.
Yeah, that's a huge benefit. You know, people don't. I know sometimes, and obviously you're not this way, but a lot of people when they're maybe younger, or if they come from poor backgrounds, or maybe if they listen to too many university professors, they can think that business is bad, right? But when you think about business as simply like, I make money by giving people a service that they want or need, and that's it. Like that's the deal. It's like, then it's a very beautiful thing, because then you're helping people, and in turn you make money. And if you don't help people, like with your old gym, I imagine the old fighter gym just completely tanked because you're not actually helping anybody. They have a need that's not being met, but you're just focused on yourself. Whereas if you say, I'm going to run this thing like a tight business, a tight ship, we're going to start classes on time, we're going to clean the place, it's going to be run professionally. Like, there are a lot of benefits to that. And again, people are going to flock to that. Opposed to just, all right, man, we're going to train really hard, beat the crap out of each other. And, here's a question actually to ask you too, because you're making a transition. This is something that I find interesting, because, back in our younger days, all we wanted to do was train and beat the snot out of each other. Now, we're getting a little bit older, we have other interests, and we don't just want to kill ourselves for an MMA fight or for a jiu-jitsu match, right? Every time. And so I feel like even for us as we age, sometimes those gyms that are, that have a bit more of like, okay, you have your guys that are really training hard, we have some space for them. But for the most part, we're allowing people who are hobbyists to train. And in essence, a lot of us have become kind of hobbyists ourselves. And so it allows us to keep training, because we wouldn't be able to train in those environments that we wanted when we were 25 or whatever. How do you feel about training now as you've gotten a little bit older and you're changing a little bit and you have other things that are going on in your life?
Been really crazy for me was I got diagnosed with autoimmune. So it takes me forever to recover from being sick and all that stuff. But
what kind of autoimmune?
So I'm training less now than I have normally, but I think it's mixed connective tissue disorder. It's basically, it's super rare, of course, you go me. And can show up as anything. So for mine, my primary symptoms are lupus. So lupus-like symptoms. So I'll get the butterfly rash when I get sick or stressed out, which I thought was just me using my face too much in jiu-jitsu. And then the other one for me, it's probably arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, but I've been abusing my body since I was a kid. So I don't even like.
It's like, I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah. So we're not going to worry about that. So I have to be a lot more. I wear a whoop strap all the time. That way I can kind of moderate my training. Like, oh, your recovery's ass today, you're going to walk. So doing that, but I think one of the things about my gym, and this is the feedback I get from people at other gyms, like, man, you guys train too hard. I'm like, we don't. We do roll. We roll every class. You don't have to, but like, we're not trying to turn into karate, bro. Like, it's going to be real. And like, our guys are really legit. But yeah, I think one of the things that really has helped us is like my wife and I talk. My wife helps me run the gym. We've been focused on culture for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Everything from the culture on the mats, but more importantly, the culture off the mats with the coaches and leadership and stuff. So like, no matter what your goals are, do we have a place for you? If you don't want to roll, we're not going to make fun of you. Like if you like, we just don't care. What do you come in here for? Well, I want to be a UFC champion. I will treat you differently. I will treat you very poorly, actually. But like, if you're just like somebody who wants to train to get in shape and improve your confidence, lose weight, self-defense, it's a completely different animal. I'll push you slightly different, or actually a lot different, but slightly more than you want to be. But we just train. We train consistently. We train, we have options 6 days a week. I think having the big, and this is something that helps me, is I pick my roles. Like, do I want to go with I have 4 ex-D1 wrestler heavyweights. I'm like, why are you here? Like, please go away.
Yeah,
so
right.
If I want hard days, I go with them. If I want easier days, I'm like, hey, you 40-year-old lady, you want to work on guard passing? Like, that's how I kind of modulate my training. And the D1 wrestler's not going to smash her. That's a big thing that we really focus on.
So really what you're saying is like your idea, right? Because I think in my gym, we're kind of similar, right? Where you can basically, regardless of whether you're a competitor or you're a hobbyist, you can essentially make this as hard as you want it to be, or you can basically back off the pedal a little bit and you can make this a little bit easier. So like basically creating a space for as many people as possible. Again, are you going to have like, just a bunch of 20-year-old, like hardcore world champions, whatever? Like, probably not, but that's okay. But it's like, but could you have people that could compete and be successful? Of course. And then could you also have like, someone's soccer mom that just wants to come in and figure this stuff out? Yes. And you basically, if I'm following you here, is you're basically allowing a space where people can train really hard and they can train as much as they want, or they can back off a little bit and they can kind of get an experience they feel is better for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that we actually have 2 Muay Thai world champions. I didn't know that happened. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, those are world titles. I'm like, really? That's impressive. I did not know. We're actually taking another guy to Scotland for another world title. It's a bigger one. But like, we have legit high-level competitors in here who train with 40-year-old soccer moms. And are we going to have like the pedagogues and stuff? No, that's not going to happen. Could we put somebody in the UFC? Yeah, if we really wanted to, but it's not a focus for us anymore.
Right.
We'll get you ready. I have the connections. Absolutely. We can get you in big fight camps if you want to, but yeah, it's just, we have just shy of 400 members right now, and we have less than 5% who compete. It's like, I don't count like local new breeds and grappling industry stuff, but like, who actually compete, super fights, MMA, Muay Thai, stuff like that. So it's just making sure that you're giving the people what they want. And on the contrary to what most people think, by having 400 members, I can front the guy $6,000 so we can go to Scotland and raise the money later. I think that's where the capitalism, the evil thing is. People are out of their damn minds.
You have to have that to run a gym, right? It's necessary. Like you have to, your services, like they cost money. You got to keep the doors open. And I think like, I don't know, like back in the day when you had to kind of a gym that failed was like, I guess, how did you make money? Or like, was that just kind of just keeping the doors open was the only priority, but now like maybe you prioritize different things?
I think that was the priority in the beginning. And, in the beginning, it was mostly like the old Gracie garage type things, like people training in garages. My first gym I trained at, we were all fighters. Well, let me back up. We had 5 or 6 fighters. We had 20 guys roughly who trained with us who were just psychopaths and didn't fight. I'm like, why do you train this hard for absolutely no reason? Who hurt you? But, so we paid in the very beginning, we paid $25 a month, which was a gym due for the actual fitness facility that we destroyed. So we started, charging 50, then 75, then 100, so we could buy better mats, so we could do that. But yeah, that was the only goal, was just to have a place to train, because somebody's wife was tired of seeing you guys in the garage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you kind of made a joke about the business thing. Did you see there was a, and this is completely unrelated, but it was like I think it was out in Oregon or something. There was a group that opened up. It was called the like Anarchist coffee shop or something. And it was like, you walk in, it would say, hey, welcome, comrade. And basically you paid whatever you wanted to pay for the coffee, right? You just, whatever you felt like paying. And it was like, it closed down within a year.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like a surprise, right?
So we have a place here in Asheville it's awesome. It's set up similar to that. It's pay what you can. But the reason that place stays open is the evil capitalist who dropped $20,000 on a meal. Like, well, that's a $12 suggested retail. Here's $20K for your month. Like,
I gotcha.
That's what it is.
People that want to keep it open.
Yeah, because it does do value. But like, listen, dude, capitalism's not evil. Like, I just.
Well, and what's really cool too is when you have a gym that does have a lot of members, it's really cool because, like you said, not only can you support those fighters that want to go out to that stuff because you have money in the bank, but also too, there's a level of involvement and that the regular members have with that they get excited about it. Because when you have a guy that's getting ready to competing a match or whatever, there's buzz in your gym from even the non-competitors, the people that just like they're connected to it and they know they are. And so that's a cool thing from it too, where they know part of their gym dues are going to funnel this guy to get him to a fight or some match that he has coming up. And, they even they probably trained with him to help him get him ready. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, Southeast Muay Thai is a local promotion. Dude's awesome. The Southeast K1. I'm like, hey, can we stop doing karate and do Muay Thai, like where you can, fight actually? But for the first time since he opened, we didn't have guys on the card, which is kind of nice. I'm like, hey, I get to stay home for a weekend. I think we bought 3 VIP tables and sent like 50 people down there, because like that's the environment. Like, those 50 people aren't going to compete. 2 of them do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But they get to be around it, and I think one of the things that people don't understand is, like, we'll use jiu-jitsu in general. I've actually had the numbers on it. Over 70% of people who do jiu-jitsu is to get in shape, aka lose weight. So over 70%. So nobody now do those guys turn into great competitors? And yeah, absolutely, possibly, but more than likely they're not. And early on, from a business standpoint, people are like, man, I get like 4 or 5 signups a month, and they all know who Gordon Ryan is. I'm like, yeah, because they're actively looking for jiu-jitsu. But when you start advertising, you start marketing, like I said, a guy came in yesterday, had no clue what jiu-jitsu was, but it sounded cool. Like, you're going to have a different environment, and that's what allows you to support everything else. Dude, my mats are $20K. Like, you can't do that just hoping and wishing. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have some business sense when it comes to doing these type of things.
Agreed.
Is there like you found like a balance to keeping those high level guys and competitors kind of really at that high level, and also catering to like the hobbyists, like just a way to, besides like different classes, intensity of classes, is there like a sweet spot you found for that?
I think realistically is meeting them where they're at almost has been a big thing for us. We don't change anything though. Like, we're not going to put you in there and try and kill you day one, but like, we're not going to reduce the product we give to make your life easier. Like, we're going to push you outside your comfort zone slightly. Like, your first day is not ever going to be like, you're never going to be like, well, I want to try jiu-jitsu out. Yeah, come at 7:30 on Tuesday or Thursday. We're going to do 30 rounds. Like, that's not your first day. We do have a fundamentals class, which you're going to be sweating at the end of it. We do have an all levels class, which that's a little more difficult because we're 30, 40 deep in there sometimes. So we're a little more careful with who we put you with. But everything's the same. Like, I'm about to experiment with this, making my kids' curriculum exactly as my adults, because they're able to do it, right? Yeah. So everybody's capable of doing it. It's just whether they're willing to or not. And I think the biggest thing that allows us to get away with that, pushing people, is how inviting our community is. Like, it's And we have a legit business process from start to finish. From the time you come to leave with your name, number, and email until you come in, we text you the day before, we send you a video the day of. We generally care. I have a lockbox over there with handwritten notes from, hey, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for this gym. I wouldn't have made it through my divorce if it wasn't for this gym. So making sure we go the extra mile for that is really important. So I think not being terrifying for most people and being very welcoming brings down that fight or flight a little bit. And I think that allows us to push them further because they're not scared.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and again, it allows you then to grow these people. And I think there's a beautiful aspect of that where I think of students as like sort of a spectrum. Like there's your A students, B students, and C students. Your A students are like the guys that are like just crazy. It doesn't matter how you package it. They're fucking nuts. They're like us, right? They're just going to do it no matter what. They just like it. You got your B students, and those guys, it doesn't matter how you package this thing. It's not for them. It just isn't. And that's okay. And then you got those people in the middle. And I think more people are there in the middle somewhere. And if you give them a good experience, they can be pulled over towards that A realm. Or if you give them a terrible experience, like you throw them into your hardcore comp class the first day they come into it, they're going to get pushed the other direction and say, this just isn't, they're going to think this isn't for them because they weren't brought up properly. And I think about a lot of the guys that I have in the gym now, that some of them are black belts and they're very good MMA fighters and everything else. Those guys, to me, I think they were like in the middle in the beginning. And then we brought them up, intelligently, right? And because we wanted to keep them around. And then now they're incredibly aggressive. They're mean, tough, gritty, pro fighter, the whole deal. And I think that you can do that if you do it intelligently. And again, I think, if you're trying to run a really focused competition effort, I think you do a service by giving people a chance to, like, if you're going to fight a war, you got to put your guys through boot camp before you send them to battle. Right. So like, you got to get them ready for it.
Yeah. I think like this is one of the crazier thoughts about it. Well, I was crazy. It's just not down the mainstream media version of it, but like we have removed every bit of friction there is in our life. I don't have to leave my house. I can have groceries delivered. I can have food delivered. If I'm hot, I hit the button on the wall and it gets cooler, or if I'm cold, vice versa. So we've removed so much friction, but like humans aren't designed for that. Like we literally are designed to like not eat every day, all these types of things. So I think giving a certain amount of friction in the gym it's one of the most revitalizing things you can do. Joe Rogan has probably the best analogy on it. Like 10,000 years ago, we had saber-tooth tigers chasing us. So there's our physical stressor. What's terrifying us? Mm-hmm. We outrun it. All of us, at least most of us. So stress, exercise, it goes away. So it's in our DNA to do that. Mm-hmm. We don't have that anymore. So we don't have to be chased by lions, but we have a mortgage, we have taxes, we have our boss at work. So we do have some stress that we can't see. So if we can simulate combat or exercise on the mats, I think that's going to make a huge thing. Like, think about how much better you feel after you get done training, no matter how bad your day is.
100%. Yeah, I 100% agree. Johnny, I want to know, like, what does the gym mean to you? Like you said, it helped you get through some really tough times. How did that happen? Tell me kind of about that, when you want to share about that experience, like how the gym was kind of something that kept you, kind of on the right path.
Yeah. So I, in 2013, I started my gym. So me and my first coach, Johnny Husky, he and I, we partnered on our gym, and investor came in, bunch of money, no sense about anything, but liked MMA. He actually started MMA promotion. Scott Crosby. It's funny. I did an interview about him the other day. He's probably one of the most influential people in all of women's MMA ever that nobody knows about.
Nobody knows about, yeah.
Well, he was what kickstarted Invicta, realistically. So, because we had that women, we had an all women's or half a women's card in Asheville, and that was Black Eye Promotions. He started that, but before that, I was mad and angry with my life, but it's not what happened at all. But, I lost a lawsuit with him over just difference of agreement. So I started my gym, and I was just angry as fuck at the world. Like, he's still alive, just so you guys know. I planned on killing him. Like, I Google mapped, I printed it out where I was going to go in, where I was, and because I didn't have time to do that, because I was training, I was still in Bellator. So, but because of that, I'm like, I'd go in, I'd work out working a 9 to 5, doing construction or some shit at the time. Go work out really hard with my friends. Like, they beat me up, I beat them up, and then I felt better. And I'll go to sleep. I do it again. Same thing the other day. And it ended up really just giving me clarity. Like, I'm not a huge meditation guy. I'm not into all that stuff. I think anytime you have something super threatening in front of you, like someone trying to beat you up or whatever, or like you're trying to squat a heavy weight, like your brain can't focus on anything else. So that's like big meditation for me. Like, I go into that Zen mode in the middle of like a 30-minute round. So it gave me clarity a little bit, but what I saw first was I saw how it improved other people's lives. I'm like, man, because like, it's easier to see outside in. I'm like, that dude's life's getting better. He thanked me for the gym. That's cool. This gym's stupid, whatever. So seeing the impact I made on other people, that's what really kept me going. And like the final straw, I was burnt out. I just retired from fighting. I wasn't stimulated anymore like the way I had been, and I had too many life things going on. I had all the paperwork for the Army filled out. And it wasn't like as a last ditch effort. I was going to enlist in high school. I got recruited to wrestle in college. I had my gold bar paperwork filled out to go after college. I bought my MMA gym. So it wasn't like some, Hail Mary thing. And I had all my paperwork filled out. I was waiting on a psych eval from college for sports medicine type stuff. And I walk in, and there's like 8 or 9 middle school, elementary school wrestlers in their gym. I'm like, well, I can't abandon these guys.
Yeah.
So during that time frame, like focus on improving them, and my gym just happened to grow because I was in a better place, I guess, being able to give back. I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and throw these paperwork away. About 2 years later, I kept the paper. I just found it and threw it out. But that was a big thing for me, was being able to give back. I've always wanted to coach. I have a biology education degree. So my goal was to graduate college, teach high school wrestling, and then just go from there. So being able to give back in a different aspect is what allowed me to get through that. I think more than anything.
I think it's interesting. I've thought about this, and I've heard this from other people, and I've experienced it myself. And obviously you're talking about it now. The best sort of visual image that I can come up with is like 2 people leaning against each other, like up against each other, to the point where if either one of them was to not be there, the other one would fall off, right? So people lean on to you, say like, I need your guidance, I need your help. And in turn, there is a powerful thing that comes to service to others, right? Like, I think humans are wired to do a few things. And I think one of them is serving other humans, because there's something incredibly profound about doing that. And when you do it, when you serve your community, when you serve other people around you, and you see the fruits from that, it makes you a better person. I mean, it can make you a better person, and it can kind of hold you up. And I think there was an interesting part, because you mentioned it earlier, and this is something I think about jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu itself is kind of a meditation, right? Because we turn our brain off, but we live in a world that's full of like imaginary stuff. So you were saying that you lost a lawsuit, and you're going through all these different things, all of this stuff that is essentially imaginary stuff, right? It's real. It's very real, but right. Like the idea of laws and money and all these are imaginary concepts that humans gravitate towards, that we play this game of civilization. Right. And so it's like, how do you deal with that kind of stress? Because if it's a saber-toothed tiger, like you mentioned, what's going on. You're fucking running, because this thing's going to bite you in the butt. But now you're dealing with this mental stress, and you don't have a way of fighting with it. And it weighs on us. And all of us have this, right? We go to work, our boss is saying stuff. We can't fight our boss, so we just deal with it. We have mortgage stress. We have all these different stressors coming at us. And jiu-jitsu, a lot of times, I think for a lot of us, is our way of essentially letting our body take all this stress that's coming from all these imaginary mental things that are coming into, and allowing us a physical outlet for it. Because all of us think the same thing. When you're done training, whether it be, combat sports in general, it's like all that stress has been dumped out, and you're good, and I think it's a physical way of dealing with all that mental baggage that we're getting hit by on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think so. my now wife, a long time ago when she was my girlfriend, in the beginning of a relationship where like you don't say anything, like that irritates the shit out of me. But I'm not going to say anything because it's a new relationship. You're on eggshells. So I went down to Jacksonville, compete in Brian Brown's Olympus tournament. And then I went to Biloxi, Mississippi to go to Alan Belcher's masterminds for combat business. And like day 4 or 5, I was like, I snapped at her. She goes, "You're an asshole. You need to go train." I'm like, I haven't trained in 6 days. Like, I don't know what happened at that point. early. That's probably we're married now, actually. But it was like, no, you need to go train. Like now. I'm like, see what gyms are near here. So I went to Allen's and got beat up.
Yeah.
So. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Like we have to have some kind of physical outlet. Like, not even talk about how the vast majority of the country is obese at this point. Like, which is another thing. But I'm like, we're not designed to sit in chairs. We're not designed to we're designed to battle. That's what it is, whether you want to like it or not. And that's just how it is. So having some kind of physical stress, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's deadlifting, whether it's something exerting you, like road bikes, any of these crazy, silly things that don't involve violence, like it does stimulate the same part in your brain, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, and two, like they've done studies where they take like pharmaceutical drugs and they compare them to the effects of exercise. And in a lot of cases, not all cases, because some people need pharmaceutical drugs, but in a lot of cases for many people, the exercise can perform just as well, in some cases better than the pharmaceutical drugs, and you're like, basically, like you said, it's like you're living in a way that your body was not designed, and your body is now sick, sad, and depressed. And the minute that you change your diet, you start exercising, you start stressing yourself out and not blasting it with like all kinds of sugar and bullshit. It's like all of a sudden you're like, I feel amazing. Like, wow, your body's being the way it should. It's imagine like a car. If you didn't do regular maintenance on it, they would never change the oil and you were giving it the worst fuel possible, the damn thing's not going to run. So your body's the same way. It's just a beautiful biological machine.
I think what's crazy is how much our bodies want us to survive. So a buddy of mine's dad works in the ER and he does respiratory therapy type stuff, during surgeries. He goes, there was a heart that had extra ventricles. I mean, what do you mean? He goes, they were grown, like not born that way, like because they were so blocked. So, your body wants you to live. Like, it's really difficult to kill yourself, like sedentary wise. Like, so yeah, our body wants us to survive, but I know this is the hardest thing I have right now is when members quit the gym. I'm like, dude, you're quitting on your goals. Like you told me 3 months ago when you joined the gym, you wanted to play with your little girl. Like, I understand work is busy, but and I always ask them, what's your plan to achieve that goal once you leave? And I don't know. I go, you better figure one out, man. Like, I don't want you to leave. But if you're set on it, you need to figure out something that way you can still play with your little girl. And, it's just tough, dude. Like, we all want to do something easy for sure. Like the easy path, it's more comfortable. But like, I think there needs to be a minimal level of resistance in your life at all times, no matter what it is, even if it's long distance running because you're insane. But like, there has to be something to push you physically.
I think besides like, we talked about kind of medication for feeling better if you have, stress or I think that the feeling of doing something difficult and accomplishing something difficult is a huge part of it. Like, lifting, a deadlift of 400 pounds, if that was your goal or something like that, doing something very difficult is challenging, or having a tough training session. And then afterwards you're kind of hanging out with your buddies and you're just kind of relaxing. You have that calm that comes over. Everybody's kind of laughing and shooting the shit. I think all that stuff is like, that's part of it. That's part of that gym community, creating that culture and that community. I think it's super important because sometimes it may have used to be where like you just go, you work out and you leave, but then like having people that, you can kind of talk to, or even you have things that you may be different, but you have the commonality of like, you did something difficult together. and you kind of trust each other. You know, if you're training, man, you got my leg in a heel hook or something, I know you're not going to crank on it, you're going to take care of me, and vice versa. I think it's like something special about like the gym culture, as opposed to like when you start training. I think you just kind of do it like you did for MMA or for just wanting to beat people up or whatever it was, right? But then you kind of, once that season in your life is kind of gone, you're like, all right, what am I doing this for now? And maybe some of it's giving back or like leading, you know, the newer generation of people moving up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things. Like, so I own a gym, obviously. I've got a strength and conditioning area. I almost never work out there because I will talk to everyone and get nothing done. So I actually have 2 gym memberships to other gyms. But, like, even there was a small window when I was moving from one gym to the next that I didn't have anything set up. Again, we were talking about like how annoying Asheville is to set up a business. So I had like a 90-day window where I didn't do anything but lift. And the thing was, we knew at whatever time we got off work, our 4 or 5 buddies would be there. We'd come in, we'd bullshit, we'd fire down a pre-workout because our diet was probably ass and we're stressed out. Then we go work out, lift, what are you doing today? Cool. And then we would just bullshit afterwards. If the workout was 45 minutes, we spent 3 hours talking. So like that community thing is a real big part. And I think it's very similar to like the primal side. Like you wake up in the morning, a group of guys goes out, they kill a woolly mammoth, which is stressful and physical and hard, and then they hang out afterwards. There's like, we're gregarious people. We're not like outside of like psychopaths. We have to be in groups.
Yep.
And I think that's another aspect that jiu-jitsu really gives you that very few other things do.
Well, yeah, because you think about it, first off, so many of the communal sort of places in our society are breaking down and they're not there anymore. I mean, like, not as many people go to church, and church used to be a big one. Religion was. Yeah. And then you had like different town functions, which those are kind of dying off. And so you have all these institutions that would have kept sort of a cohesive fabric, and then we don't have those anymore. And so I think it's a really important function from jiu-jitsu, from just a community aspect, where people can get out and, one, obviously they've done these like long studies on people's lives where they find that like one of the biggest correlations with like longer lifespan is like better relationships with other people, right? Like, so go figure. That's, again, that's how we're designed to be. But even from like a society standpoint, everybody's in their little bubbles, like on, there's no shared, like, we don't have TV in the sense where everybody watches the same information at all times. Everybody's getting their information in an echo chamber, as the algorithms have basically conformed to like, what do you want to see? And then, but it's a beautiful time where people can actually come in, meet all these different people from different walks of life, train hard, beat the crap out of each other, go through this, this tough experience, like you said, like that we've always done at different time in memoriam. And then you have a chance to just relax and connect with each other and build those bonds up. And it's a beautiful thing.
I think one of the things that really shined during and after COVID was the community aspect. Like before COVID happened, we were getting phone calls, typical, whatever it was. And the phone rang. We say, hey, it's a great day at Road Combat Club. It's Johnny. How may I help you? How much are classes? I'm like, well, one, who am I speaking with? Yeah. Like, learn how to use a phone. But which is funny because now we have caller ID on everything. Like, I know who's calling me all the time. All right. So I guess it's a different age thing, but before COVID, it was how much are classes. Now, during COVID, because we didn't shut down, we shut down for 2 weeks. We're like, I got too many messages. Hey, man, we'll come in on our own. Like, I'm just really stressed out. I'm like, you know what? Paper the windows, come in the back door. We'll minimize classes. We'll do what we can the best we can. But we'll do what we did. And I had a medical doctor who was like more conservative with it than I was, to kind of checks and balancing me. I was like, yeah, fucking open it up, man. Let's go. Who cares? But after COVID, during COVID, it was, hey, the phone ring. I'm like, they're like, hey, how do I sign up? I'm like, are you a cop?
Yeah. Are you a narc?
You a cop? We have cops here. Do you know Jeff? No. No. Okay. But they're like, no, man. I was like, you just come in here. You guys are open? Man, I want to do something. Like, that isolated us more than anything. Like, I think that was, it was
dangerous.
It was super dangerous. Suicides went up. Domestic violence went up.
Alcoholism, drug use, the whole deal.
it just skyrocketed. And I'm like, oh, we need communities more than ever. And like at that point, we actually shifted our marketing to communities. And we still do. Like if you look at like the Google search terms, like on your dashboard, community, tribe, coaches, team, like all huge aspects of it. But we've always been that way. Like you played football, you were a football player. You played baseball, you were a baseball player. Whether you ever saw the field or not, that was your community. I think that's more important than ever right now.
I agree, man. I'm curious we've been talking about like jiu-jitsu business stuff. I'm curious some stuff about you. So you recently got promoted to black belt. You've been training for a long time and obviously could throw down with black belts long before you were officially a black belt. I can attest to that from rolling with you, but you got it from Brandon McCaghren. So I'm curious, how did you end up meeting Brandon? And then what is it like getting your black belt? Was there anything particularly like interesting or cool about that experience that you can kind of go back on?
Yeah, he's one of the worst people I've ever met. So
awful.
He sucks. Yeah. He does suck.
Dude, so you know what's funny? So he's obviously doing big things right now. He got into jiu-jitsu because of weight. Well, actually, Lindsay, his wife, made him go to the gym because he was getting fat.
It was a New Year's resolution.
Yeah. So like one of the biggest names in jiu-jitsu, like far as like behind the scene, not competitors, but like is because of weight loss. So like that kind of goes into the like, hey, let's move B's to A's. But so I actually met him. So this is right after that I had those wrestlers come in. I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna keep teaching for a while and see what happens. And coming from a catch background, we had leg locks way before everybody else. And Division I athlete, Division I wrestler, I understand how the body works. So I'm like, how do I teach better? Like, how do I provide a better service to these guys? So I bought Leg Lock Academy. It was Mack, Alan Belcher, and Nate Orchard, which and it was basically, I wouldn't say fundamental. There's pretty good stuff, or actually really good stuff in there. And how Mack is. Just he's never been a stranger.
No, that's right.
So we started talking, and then he goes, hey, I want to try an experiment. And I think he just launched his personal website at that time. Yeah. So he came up to the seminar, and we started talking. I said, dude, I'd love to have a 10-planet gym. I don't want to wear a gi. And we've been talking that was like early, 8 or 9 years ago, I guess. And we've been talking ever since. And I used to go out before COVID. I went out to his gym like once a month to train. And then we actually met, and that's like doing business coaching and combat business success. So I'm a client. I was a client and then a coach, and now I do both, a coach and a client still. But that's how I met him, and we just hit it off. As different as his style is, our philosophies are very, very similar. Like, I didn't know what guard was when I met him. I'm like, guard? No, that's stupid. I came from a wrestling MMA background. Like, guard is not a good place to be. And then after I went down to Olympus and got absolutely dismantled by Dan Martinez, I'm like, it's like, pass my guard, mount, take my back. I'm like, well, that was stupid. So I started learning guard game, and but like, even though like our philosophy is very similar, it's like get on top, stay on top, kill on top. I just start on top. He's gonna sit down and sweep you. But I love working with him, man. He's one of the best coaches I've seen far as understanding how to explain things, how things work, and just unbelievable businessman as well.
Yeah, and he's also very entertaining. Like, as a coach, like I battle with this a little bit because I think I'm probably partially ADD or something, but there's some guys that will teach, and like in jiu-jitsu, sometimes jiu-jitsu guys, it's like I feel like they want to like go into this, like John Danaher can do it because that's literally what he was. He was a college professor.
Yeah.
Then, that's who he was. But I feel like there's a lot of jiu-jitsu guys who that's not who they are, but that's who they're trying to be, and it ends up just coming off as incredibly dry and boring. And it's like you're using big words that don't belong. Like it's like, look, bro, this isn't a college lecture. Like, we're choking people. Let's just bring it down. But Brandon does an amazing job of explaining very complex ideas in very simple ways to follow. And it makes it to where you're learning these important principles and technical like details but you're doing it and it's fun because it's not like you're not in a room. You're not in like a college professor room. You're in like a jiu-jitsu room with the guy who's laughing and cutting up, but he's also giving you some gems.
Yeah, I think that's where him and I are very, very similar. Like we're both very conceptual. Like I still maintain there's 6 movements in jiu-jitsu. There may be 7, but like that's it. Like you're gonna do these things in infinite combinations. So like a butterfly sweep and a guillotine, and it's all some kind of similar body mechanic. So conceptually, we both teach very conceptually. And I actually asked him, I'm like, hey man, with new people who are absolutely horrible, like how do I get them to pick up details? He goes, don't. He goes, just give them, if they can do the gross movement at the end of the class, you have won. Because if it's fun, they're going to keep coming back. If they make some sort of progress, like they get a gold star on their little report card, they're going to come back.
That's it.
And that's one of the toughest things to teach my young coaches who are super intellectual. I'm like, nah, dude, just like, what do you mean? I'm like, just move the leg. How? Yeah. I don't care. What's in your way? Move it.
It's like watching like a baby, right? Like a baby try to pick something up, right? Sure. At some point, as an adult, we want this baby to be able to pick this person pick up this cup and pull it back. But in the beginning, if we can just get the baby to like pick it up and it's ugly, but you're picking something up. Hey, we're in the right direction. You know, there's far too many details in jiu-jitsu, especially any jiu-jitsu technique. There's far too many details that, especially if you've been doing this for 20 years or something, to teach in one setting. It's like you first have to just get them moving in the right direction. And as they get, like you said, the gross motor patterns down, then it allows them to say, okay, I've got the big picture here. Now we can start making those fine-tuned adjustments in the beginning, you know, but you can't do that if the person doesn't, like, for instance, if you want to make an arm bar better, we can do all these different details about how to make that arm bar tighter. But if you don't even really know what an arm bar is, and your body, and more importantly, your body doesn't know what it is, because obviously your head can know what it is, but it's a different thing to actually have that feeling in your body and know what that feels like. You can't give them the details. You know, it's just too much.
It might not even be the arm bar. It's just like, all right, if you're on bottom trying to go for an arm bar, just learn to kind of like position your hips or swivel your, you know, kind of just to get your body moving in the right direction. I think it, like with the beginners or the white belts, it's like giving them like one like general idea that is going to work towards that move and probably towards a lot of other moves. Cause there's, like we said, there's just numerous things you can do, but a lot of those movements are the same.
It's
maybe 7.
Not maybe.
What
7.
are they? What are what's the 7? You don't know, you're just making it up.
Yeah, it's definitely 6. That's the thing. So my wife, she was coaching for a little while too, and she's like, how do they not know what their body's doing? They're like, raise your left leg up. Your left leg. Nope. I'm like, and, you know, and people don't get that. I'm like, ask an adult to do a cartwheel.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, I think that's a big thing. Is just making it like there's so few people out there who would take 100 beatings in their first day and come back. Like there just isn't, you know, that, and that's where I think the small garage gym, that's what keeps it from growing. Like, you know how hard it is to find like 50 sociopaths in one city? Like, it's just difficult, you know? So I think just having that, like that coaching from him, talk about getting good, got it. You know, because I went from a division, this was a terrible transition. I went from a Division 1 room to coaching elementary and middle school wrestlers. Now they were really good. Yeah, they were really good and really tough. But, you know, it's funny. That group is just graduating. I have one guy left in high school from that group.
That's cool.
Yeah, now I'm old. But like one's in the intelligence or linguistics in the military right now. One's actually reffing at a pretty high level for wrestling now. Like, it's crazy seeing them, like, you know, somewhere in the Navy. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, now I'm old. But, you know, one of the guys, he has one of my logos tattooed on his leg. I'm like, all right, so I guess I had a good impact. That's cool.
Yeah, that's dope.
So, you know, it's neat seeing that.
And how did you, like, as far as, you know, you got into wrestling, you're a Division 1 wrestler, and then you got into MMA. What was that kind of the start of all that? What was the the reason, and what were you searching for, or kind of,
So
and also if you can share like a little about the transition, because going from D1 wrestling's intense, then going to MMA is intense, and then going kind of to jiu-jitsu, maybe a little bit the intensity level. Obviously, you're not getting punched in the face, things like that. It switches it up a little bit.
yeah, so Western North Carolina football is pretty big. So I was like 5'8.5", 5'9" maybe, and 185 pounds. And my dad was like, "Hey man, you should wrestle to stay in shape for football because that's going to get you to college." That was never going to get me to college, no matter how fast I was. I couldn't catch. I played defensive guard. Like it just wasn't happening.
You were not big enough to play in college.
No, I couldn't have been a ball boy anymore, but too slow for that. But so I started wrestling in 8th grade to stay in shape for football. And unfortunately, I didn't take wrestling serious until my junior year of high school. I won a couple like smaller national titles and stuff like that. And I didn't really push myself. I wrestled year round because I like sports. And it was also like one of those things, my parents, I was fortunate. My parents like, if you keep your grades up and you do sports, you don't have to have a job. I'm like, sweet. Except in the summertime, I had to work for my dad, which was horrible. But it was what it was. But I wrestled year round. I did really well, and I got recruited to wrestle in college. Late recruit. I got a phone call. I was actually at work. Say, "Hey, do you want to wrestle in college?" I'm like, "Sure." I get to get postponed being an adult a little bit longer. Great.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my Army paperwork filled out, and the recruiter's like, "Dude, just go. Like, there's nothing going on. I don't need."
Well, that's pretty cool of your recruiter.
Yeah, he was. It was a military school, it was a Citadel, so he was cool with it. He goes, "You can go as an officer. Who cares?" And he probably got fired that day, but whatever. And then so I wrestled all 5 years in college. Graduated right before my last year of eligibility, had my first MMA fight. My coach was a big judo guy. He's like, "Man, hey, congratulations. Don't ever do that again. You're on scholarship still." I'm like, "All right, cool, coach. Thanks." He was like, "Glad you won." And so once I got done wrestling, I moved back home and just started fighting ever since then. The transition from MMA, the transition from wrestling to MMA was pretty easy. I didn't like getting hit in the face. I've got really good striking, apparently. I just didn't like getting hit in the face. So it impeded me. One thing I really wish I did was mindset coaching then. I had a mindset coach after where I retired to get back into jiu-jitsu. That did mindset coaching as well. And what I realized was in wrestling, if you had a good setup and a shot, reshot, and at any point in time they stopped you, that was it. You don't get the points. Where I'd be throwing punches, I'd throw 5 punches, 4 land, and 1 of theirs land. In my head, I lost. So that was a big thing for me. I didn't mind getting hit in the head. I had my face broken with a beer bottle in college, and I stayed awake and never got dropped. But so that was a big thing. And then transitioning over to jiu-jitsu was actually really easy. Most jiu-jitsu guys can't wrestle for shit. So you get 2 points automatically for touching their legs, and they fall down. Then you get 3 points for getting past their legs. I'm like, I have 5 points. And you're not even trying to stand up. This is great. It was a really easy transition. And I think what really made my life easier, though, was wrestling is so control-based that I was like, I looked up at the scores board one time. It was 27-2. I looked at my coach. It was my middle school wrestling coach, who was my first MMA coach and stuff. I'm like, "Are those my points?" He goes, "Yes, you idiot." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I had no clue. So it was very rewarding for being a good control, which, I'm a huge fan of. But I really like the pace. It's a different pace. Because of all the wrestling I've done, I will always scramble 30 seconds more than you will. I'm always willing to do that, which allows me to get to better position or a slightly better position than settling for a bad position on bottom.
How old are you these days, Johnny?
38.
30. Say same as me. That's right. We were separated at birth, so
Yeah, that's right.
you're same age as me. As you're getting older, how are you adjusting the way that you roll? I ask this because this is something I'm doing. Like I have like for a long time I held like a really good pace, right? Like I can just move around like crazy and just go and no problem. And as I've gotten to the later stages of my 30s, getting close to that 4-0 mark, I've noticed that when I do that against like young guys in their 20s, I start to get wore out more. So now I'm beginning to shift my game a little bit into more of that really tight control, basically outworking people with position a little bit more sometimes and just basically outworking them with horsepower. Have you done any retooling of your grappling game as you're approaching your you're getting a little bit older basically?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is making sure. So I sit guard a lot more now because I'm not wrestling these fucking guys.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm like, you outweigh me by 60 pounds. You also wrestle D1. I'm going to sit down now.
Yeah.
Say Jordan Burroughs is doing jiu-jitsu now. Like,
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Like, how
That's
would
terrifying.
How would you see that? I would sit down and heel hook him. I would just absolutely rip it and just hope for the best.
You're not taking the guy down. I mean, he's like one of the best American wrestlers ever.
I'm just going to sit. Like, we're just going to start here. You can have 2 points. You can even have side control. But I'm not going to try to out wrestle you. But what I've done is make sure as people are passing, is like you said, not giving them anything. And what I have found a lot of success with as of late is that double dogfight sequence.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, because my guys will wizard the piss out of you because they can wrestle. So it's a different wizard than your typical jiu-jitsu was. I've never, if they've not wrestled and they get a wizard on me, I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to respect this at all. Yeah. I'm not worried about Thars or Anaconda or anything. I'm just going to continue. But with that, I've been doing a lot of double dogfight, but like, I'll still push to a good position. And what I'll consider now for me a good position is anything where you're not crushing me, especially the bigger guys. But yeah, so I've modified it a good bit. I'm just less for like I don't give people underhooks. I used to we'll see what happens from here.
Sure.
It's a lot tighter game. And when I get to a good position where I'm on top, I am not going to give you anything. We're going to sit here for I don't care how long.
What about your like as far as intensity of training, how much you're training and maybe even recovery or kind of keeping your body healthy? What are you doing now?
Yeah, so I train a lot less. When I have a light day or it's a harder day of training, but I'm going lighter, I do 5 rounds. That's it. I'll pick them. If I feel good, I'll pick 4 or 5 big guys. If I don't feel good, I'll pick 4 or 5 small guys. It's not uncommon for me to do 8, 9, 10 rounds sometimes still. We do a lot of 3-minute rounds now. So I was talking to Heath Pedigo when I was at one of his camps, and he talks about like you have to be able to win 7 3-minute rounds to win a Pan Am. So I'm like, oh, I like that. Which just means you need to be able to score points and not get scored on for 3 minutes, which is really so. And a lot of our guys, coming from 10th Planet background, it's all sub only. I'm like, hey, points
longer rounds, slower pace, that kind of thing,
which I love. Like, well, not anymore, but like with my higher energy and stuff, like I'm going to absolutely push the pace, and you're going to break. You're probably going to break by minute 3. So I started to change some situations with my guys, and this is where it kind of changed in my game as well. I'm like, hey, you have to score 5 points before you submit them. You have to be up by 3 points before you submit them. Or I give these different games that they have to play to make them start getting outside of their comfort zones and doing these different situational sparring. So understanding the game, like one thing I'm really good at is winning. Like I may not be the most technical athlete in whatever sport I'm playing, but like I understand how to play the game. So I'll wrestle on the edge. I won't wrestle on the edge. I'll use the edge to score. I'll stall when it looks like I shouldn't be stalling. Understanding the rule set makes a big difference. So I'm like, you're up by 4. You're not going to submit me. I'm going to sit here and just hold you in lockdown. But, I think having an understanding of the game and where like safe spots it's been really big for me lately.
I loved how you said that you're like, I'm really good at winning. I felt like that was a very like Trumpish thing for you to say. I'm really good at winning. I'm the best at winning.
It's important. That's probably part of it. Winning is the most important thing. What about like physically? Like, what are you doing to keep your body together?
So no, dying.
Dying.
So I'm
ever so slowly.
yeah,
We all are actually.
I'm lifting more than I have been. Like more frequently. I'm not lifting more like weight wise.
Yeah.
Like the other day, I deadlifted for the first like actual straight bar deadlift for the first time in I don't know how long. I put 405 on there, and I'm like, all right, that wasn't that bad. I'm like, I'm gonna ego lift 500 before I stop doing this. Like, I need to do it one more time. But my weight is significantly down what I'm doing. But when I wasn't lifting, I felt like I kept getting low back pain, like hip flexor, low back pain. I'm like, I'm gonna start lifting, like just nothing crazy, and I actually remedied a lot of that. So that acupuncture, I walk a lot for recovery. That's crazy how much just walking 30, 40 minutes makes your body feel.
Walking's great,
better, especially outdoors.
It's good for you. Walking's actually good for your back. Yeah.
A few years ago, I started doing that. Like, I remember I was like watching Stan Efferding. He talks about like the 10-minute walks after meals. And I was like, well, let's give it a try, to aid digestion. And it can have like a positive effects on blood pressure and stuff like that. I was like, so let's do it. So like after meals, I'll just go for like a little walk around my property or out down the block or whatever. And like, I mean, I've even noticed like, because, you work, we all work from computers and stuff like that during the day at times. And I noticed that if I didn't do my walks throughout the day, I was more sluggish at night. But if I got up for at least a couple walks throughout the day, anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, just whenever I can squeeze them in, I noticed that like just getting up and getting my heart moving just a little bit, I always felt better for later in the evening. Like I was more awake. I didn't feel as tired and sluggish. But if I sat down in front of that computer and just grinded it out for several hours, bro, I would just be, by the end of the night, I feel like I'm like, just like, I feel like I'm brain dead. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, he's does business coaching and stuff. So he'll do 2 to 4 hours of calls in the morning.
Yeah.
And then he'll go lift. Like he's big into heavy lifting and stuff. He goes, all these guys, you have to get up at 4 a.m. and lift. And then he goes, no. He goes, my brain, like for me personally, I'm more creative first thing in the morning. So I'll get up and I'll do some kind of brain work. And then midday I'll lift if I'm going to lift or whatever situation is. But like breaking your day up, and you don't have to go out and do like 18 CrossFit workouts in a marathon. Like just go move a little bit.
Yeah.
One of my friends, she said, she's like, Johnny, I need to lose weight. And for a while, I was like, what's the best exercise pill? What's the best diet pill? I'm like, meth. I'm like, no, I'm seriously. And I wouldn't tell her what to do. And she came to me. She's like, I have to do something. I'm like, don't eat anything out of a plastic bag. Don't go eat anything from a drive-through window. And I want you to park in the back of the grocery store every day when you go to the grocery store. And she did that. And then she added, she goes, I would eat my lunch and then walk 30 minutes at work. And like, same thing. I don't know.
For a walk.
Dude, it's the leanest I've ever been outside like cutting weight for MMA and stuff was when I was doing 75 hard and I walked 45 minutes every day. Like it burns an insane amount of calories.
It does. Well, and I keep a treadmill in my basement for that purpose. Like I got a treadmill and an Echo bike, but for just the slow, steady paced walk, like if I can't go outside because it's just too cold or something, and I don't want to go through that, or if I'm just for whatever reason I'm going to do this, I'll just pop the treadmill and put on the incline and just like friggin' put on an audio book or a video, and I'll just go for 30, 45 minutes. And like you said, I remember like when I was getting ready for a competition in 2020 and was really pushing it and like getting super leaned out, one of the things that I did every single day was go for a walk 30, 45 minutes. And again, it's one of those things where I think because people are like, they watch too many like David Goggins videos and they think that every workout needs to be obliterate them. And that's the way to get results. And really it's not. It's like, it's about that like really consistent stuff that you do that simply stimulates where you're, it's a little step in the right direction. It's a little drop to the bucket. It's not the big crazy work. I mean, those are fine sometimes, but you're going to get more like you're saying, because I do the same stuff, lifting, not the heaviest weight you've ever lifted, but lifting to where you get your body moving, stimulate the body, go for a walk, stimulate that fat loss, go to the gym, get some good rolls in, stimulate your skill progression, everything else, but not killing your body, not subjecting yourself to unnecessary risk of injury and everything else. It's like, just do that consistently for a long time. That's where the magic is.
What's one of your, I wanted to ask you this. You've done, done MMA, you've done wrestling, you know, jiu-jitsu, you gotten a black belt. What's maybe your proudest accomplishment? Maybe in martial arts and maybe outside of martial arts.
In martial arts, I think it's watching my guys win. You know, I've competed at a high level. I want to start tracking my heart rate when I train and compare it to when I coach, because I know it's going to be higher when I coach. I sweat. It's terrible. But yeah, watching my guys win is really cool. It's a big thing for me, especially people who didn't think we're ever going to compete. You know, so we have a couple world titles at the gym. You know, I won the Masters IBJJF a couple years back. I'm like, okay. My buddy's like, do you want to do absolute now? I'm like, I'll tell you in a minute. I sat down. I'm like, no, I want to go drink a beer. Like, let's go do that. He goes, thank God, I'm starving. But, you know, it's seeing other people win. Now, I've been competing since I was in first grade, football, baseball, wrestling. It's seeing other people win is big for me. I think one of the coolest things I've seen off the mats, but in relation, was one of my guys so this is going to make people throw up in their heads. I had a white belt in charge of my entire jiu-jitsu program. They're like, what? And it wasn't like he's a D1 wrestler, white belt. Like, he just was a white belt, but he ran all the stuff. I did the curriculum. I did a lot of the coaching, but he organized it. And he taught quite a few classes. But the other day, he goes, do you remember when you almost fired me for not locking that door? I was like, dude, I have almost fired you so many fucking times. I don't remember that one, though. He goes, I wouldn't hire me when I first started. I wouldn't either. Like, you know, but seeing the impact of that, what we've done through the gym has had on these, you know, 10, 12 people who work with us has been huge. You know, we talk about core values, mission, vision, and purpose. And our purpose is to empower, inspire, and show others how those willing to do the work can achieve more than they imagine possible by being the example on and off the mats. And seeing our guys do that has been really, really impactful. Like, we have a good accountability program for our guys. If you show up late, you're going to get your ass chewed by somebody that's not me. Like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you wearing pajama pants? Go home and change. Like, it's I mean, he's a young guy, but yeah, you know, I think just seeing the impact off the mats has been more rewarding than anything. You know, I've been competing forever. It's lost a lot of allure to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you spend time, like, you know, when you're younger, you're out there trying to prove yourself to yourself, the world around you, your community, and you know, you're out slaying dragons, right? You're out conquering stuff. And then there comes a point where that really doesn't have the same sort of like allure, luster that it used to. And, you know, like you said, you go win a medal. It's like, cool, I won a medal. At least I don't know about you. I'll compete every now and then. And I'll win some stuff. Like, I've won some good tournaments, and I enjoy doing it because it's fun to test myself every now and then. But it's interesting because people are more excited for me than I'm excited for myself. Absolutely. It's like, I'll go do it, and it's like everybody's like, "Oh, Chew, that was amazing," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool." Now it's the flip side. Like, when one of my guys is winning, I'm like, "Yeah!" Like, I'm out there screaming and going, and it's just like like, for me, the most I'll get out of myself is a yeah, and that's all I got. That's about all I'll give myself, and then I'm like, all right, let's go watch other guys compete now.
I'm like, that was a cool transition, but I don't care. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, but I think that's where the community comes in. Like, you need to surround yourself with people who are more excited about your wins than you are, and I think that's where it makes a big difference. So, coaching tunnel vision. I'm sitting there after a tournament one day. I told my wife, I was like, I want everybody on the side of the mats when our guys are on the mats. She goes, what do you mean? She goes, I want them there, like, cheer. He goes, they are. I'm like, what? She goes, they're all right behind you. I don't know they're there. I'm sorry. I'm coaching. But, like, that's the thing. Like, our guys are, if one of our guys on the mat, our entire team is there. Yeah, like, and I think that's one thing that I don't think people understand the value of the gym in that aspect. Like, it's a community. Like, they're here to be with you. Like, and they want to see you win more than you want to win. And I think that's what's really, really missing in the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I think that shows kind of a strong gym culture community, and then also good coaching, right? Like, I think you see your guys do well. Obviously, it shows that you're doing the right things, but the support that you have, being a coach and showing the right techniques, but also cultivating that environment where everyone supports each other, I think makes an excellent gym.
Yep.
Here's a question I have for you. A couple quick ones. Number one, have you read any books in the last like little bit? Because you said you're talking about like reading a little bit. Have there been any books or anything that you've read that you're like, man, this is a really good book or something I enjoyed?
Yeah, I just finished Seeds of Culture.
Okay.
I forget who wrote it. It's not in here. And a lot of it's, I'm like, why do you not do that anyways? Like, how do you treat your employees like that? Why don't they assault you? You know, because I'm so used to how I run things, how the people who I've worked less than 6 months at a job that wasn't a friend or family my entire life. You know, I've been self-employed 100% since 2017. But like, you know, the job I had before that was 2.5 years from my old boss. I'm like, hey, Mike, here's the deal. I can work for you. You're doing commercial HVAC. I say, I have to be in the gym at 5 p.m. every single day. He goes, okay. Like, we'd leave North Carolina at 4 in the morning, drive an hour and a half to South Carolina, work all day so I could get back in time. So that was the kind of boss he was. So, but Seeds of Culture, it talks about like the different parts of creating a culture. You know, and I don't remember the top. It's culture, climate, community, and commitment.
Okay.
Like, if you can get those 4 things, then you can have a high performance team. It's to where they care about it. But yeah, that's been a really good book. So I made my whole team read it and then give us some thoughts on it. And one thing we do, I think, is as a new hire, you absolutely read this and you will write your thoughts about it and stuff on this. I don't know if it's legal or not, but that's what we do. Is you win in the locker room first. It's probably one of the best books I've ever read as far as establishing a culture. You win in the locker room first. It was Mike Smith, I believe, was one of the authors. Okay. He was the Atlanta Falcons coach when they didn't suck for those couple of years. But yeah, it's anything culturally I'm a big fan of. Obviously, Atomic Habits. For anybody trying to improve their life, Atomic Habits is a great read. I've read it 3 or 4 times. But yeah, those are the most recent or just most notable books.
No, cool. That's like that's stuff I'd be interested in because, like you said, I think culture is probably because again, when you think about, especially from a business standpoint, people are our business. Mats and all that stuff is just like, it means absolutely nothing, right? Like it has no value really. Like try selling your 20K mats for anywhere close to what you paid for them. You know, like the people are our business. As a small business, the wealth of your business is measured by the quality of the relationships with your people. Period, point blank. That's the way it is. So should definitely check those out. And then one question I wanted to ask you, as a former professional MMA fighter fighting in Bellator, super tough D1 wrestler, have done that, good competitor in jiu-jitsu and done some stuff there. Have you, over the years, did you ever find drilling useful? Like drilling can take on different means. It can be like getting repetitions of a technique, like a takedown. You're trying to get your reps in with it to sharpen it. It could mean having people give you a particular look, like say like, all right, I'm going to do a little bit like a live wrestling. You're going to give me a look, but I'm still going to, get the takedown, that kind of thing. Did you find that stuff useful? And I'm sure you did it in wrestling a bit. Did you find it useful? And do you think that it's useful for your grappling?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things you can do far as honing a skill. Is because you're getting the most reps. Now, is there effective drilling and ineffective drilling? 1,000%. If you're going through emotions, it's one thing. If you're focusing on the details, is another thing.
Yeah.
We have in our gym says drillers make killers. Like it's on the wall. Like you're going to drill. We do a lot of drilling. We do a lot of situational drilling. I think it's the best way to get 50 reps of a sequence that it's going to take you 8 years to get that many reps in live rolling.
Yeah.
But you can effectively knock out, 20, 30 reps and have no problem. What Mack was doing, and this is something I stole from him, and it's super effective, it's like a flow of the month. So for this month, we're doing Z-guard to butterfly to sweep. It's basically you start in Z-guard, and then you establish a butterfly guard, and you work your way up to sweep. And you're going to do that 10, 20 times per practice on your own. And then we're going to build off that, like what if, different situations like that. So that's our base movement. And you're going to get 200 reps a month. Think about how effective 200 reps is as far as building a neural pathway. So yeah, I'm a huge drilling fan. And then the other part of drilling is if you're having a problem, this is something I think it's Lachlan Giles I stole it from, but like go through a sequence. If you're having a problem at a certain point, go to there and then have your opponent start add resistance there. So like if you're getting like the body lock pass, if you're having a hard time stepping over their leg on that pinch side, let yourself get there and then have them start adding resistance. And then once you figure out that part, then keep going. I think it's a really effective way to drill at a higher level.
I gotcha.
I think the only time drilling doesn't work, again, ineffective drilling, is when you have two brand new people or one brand new person who's all right, they're going to sweep you, and they just go.
Yeah.
So you have to give them a expected response. That's something I learned the hard way as well.
Sure. Like I said, I'm just curious because I know, like, you know, for me, like coming up originally in wrestling, and always have been part of gyms that kind of had that wrestling, you know, background instilled in them, drilling, giving each other looks, you know, like where like you're moving around and you're giving a look. That's always been something that we've done. And as I've gotten into, you know, jiu-jitsu more and seeing stuff, I'm seeing more and more people like sort of poo-poo on drilling as not being necessary or not being effective in some cases. And I like asking people who have, you know, some real world, like some actual real tangible experience with all this stuff. Because for me, I'm like, I find it useful. So I'm curious what other people, if they find it useful, and just like chatting about it.
Yeah, so here's how you know it works. So I had a short notice fight. So I took 2 weeks off from a fight, which I normally take a week off. I took 2 weeks off, partied, all good stuff. And I got a short-term fight offer, like 4 days, lose 27 pounds. It was a good old time.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, yay. But it was a big name, so we went and did it. And but during that 2 weeks, I was working with my striking coach, and we only did striking, like because that was it. And in that fight, you can see the combos that we were running. I had no clue I was throwing them, so that was
just on autopilot.
Yeah, and then my first MMA fight, I was, you know, so I'm right-handed, but I wrestle. I box southpaw. I wrestle goofy footed or southpaw, and so I'm right-handed, and dude clips me, and I fall, and he jumps on top of me. I come up, I knee him, I fall again. As I come out after, you know, it was the end of the first round. As I came out in the second round, I went back to my wrestling stance, and I almost, I was like, "What the hell is he doing?" Wrestling, because I went back to what I've done so many. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
You know? So I think drilling is super effective, and this is what I tell my guys: you're going to go back to your lowest form of training when you're tired. So I think drilling is super important. Do you need to drill incessantly until nobody shows up to class? No, but I also think that on the opposite side of drilling is flow rolling is super important.
Sure.
Once you can get to that level.
Yeah,
that's the issue. If not, you're just making bad habits from the beginning.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Actually, before Chewy got here, you shared a fun story about how you guys were separated at birth.
Sure.
But no, actually, I was asking Johnny about like how you guys actually like got to know each other, how you all met each other. It's a pretty interesting story. So if you want to share that real quick.
Yeah, it was so one of the guys, my wrestling coach and then my first MMA coach, one of his guys was like, "Hey man, I commented on your video and you didn't reply to me." I'm like, "What video?" He was on YouTube. I'm like, "I have a YouTube?" He goes, "Yeah, man, you got a bunch of videos." I'm like, and this is at a grappling tournament. I'm still competing. I'm like, "Yeah, man, just send me the video." That way I know. I'm like, "That's not me." And we've already met. We've already spoke at that point because I'm like, "Hey, check this shit out." And so I think I asked you to reply to this comment. You probably did. But, yeah, that's how it was started. And then I said a couple of years ago, I went to my elk hunt. I stopped by. I said, well,
we got some
we'll have our way, some training in. And then, so, yeah, that's how it that's all happened.
You hit me with that Peterson roll variation. Yeah. That was good. Yeah, it's funny. There was I remember when you competed a couple of years ago because I was there coaching. I remember like I think we saw each other when we were like walking on the street or something, but like people were actually telling me that like they came up to you first because they were like, oh, that's Chew. Oh, it's not Chewy or whatever. Like, you know, because from afar they're like, that's Chewy. I'm gonna go take a picture with him, and they're like, oh, I don't think you're Chewy. You know,
I think I'm gonna come to your tournament when you get down this way. I'm gonna wear the Chewy shirt and everything. I'm gonna see how many people I can take pictures with.
oh, bro,
That'd be
do
awesome.
it, do it. It's like just put on a Jiu-Jitsu shirt. I'll give you one if you don't have one, and you just walk around, and then it's like when people say like, "Are you Chewy?" But just like say yes, and just go along with it. And just let's
take
see,
pictures.
yeah. Let's see how many pictures ends up on the internet with you. Like, man, I got to meet Chewy. He's great.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Me and Jiu-Jitsu.
Chewy's terrible. He's such a mean person.
You're not that.
You probably could.
You
I mean, that'd be
softened
fun.
in your older age.
It's getting old and crusty.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, hey, Johnny, if people want to get a hold of you or like train with you or you know, kind of see what you're up to, where can they do that?
Yeah, Instagram JohnnyBuck2, like JOHNNYBUCK, the number 2, or Rogue Combat Club. Just swing by the gym. We're in Asheville, North Carolina. If you're drop in, hang out. We do jiu-jitsu. Reach out to us. We'll get you set up and come roll.
Awesome, man. Chew, you got anything?
That's it for me, man. Once I get this infant stuff down, I'll try to stop by the gym, come see you, and train with you again.
Yeah, sounds good, dude.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate your time, Johnny.
Hey, man, thank you guys.
All right, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. And again, if you guys have never seen Johnny, because maybe you don't know who he is, go to his Instagram page and tell him how much you love Jiu-Jitsu and how much tell him, say you guys look exactly the same. No, but cool guy. Again, fun chatting with him, and it's been interesting because I've known him loosely for some years. And then, got to train with him when he was going on an elk hunt, and I've seen him kind of progress his gym and his business and everything else. It's been cool to see. And so I'm happy for him, happy for his success. And if you guys are out in that area sometime, definitely go down into his gym and get some training in. And again, if you guys want to support the podcast, you can do so by going to our sponsor's website, charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. Again, guys, one of those things, you hear me talk about it all the time because I am personally getting a little older, is I use CBD as part of a recovery regimen. It's part of one of the supplements, right? People are asking, Chewy, what supplements do you take? Most of the stuff's pretty normal. I take, magnesium. I'll take sometimes, not all the time, I'll take a multivitamin. I take some creatine and things like that because I find it valuable, and there's some good studies on it. And then I take CBD. One thing I'll say about supplements though, guys, is trust your experience with stuff. There's something interesting to me that, like, I did a video where I was talking about some different stuff that I do now that I think helps my recovery. And like, apparently one of my students told me, I haven't watched the video, but my student told me that was like, the guy was refuting some of the things I was saying as to say that there's no scientific evidence to back it up. And this is fine. My thing is, I'm not going to wait for a scientific study to come out for me to try something. And if I find value from it, I'm not going to not do it just because there's not a study for it. If I find something valuable, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm just going to make it a part of my routine. I'm going to incorporate it in. And so there's some of the things like magnesium. I notice a discernible difference when I take a good magnesium supplement. I've just, especially when it comes to sleep, it definitely helps out. And there's some decent studies on it. But even with CBD is kind of like, it's up in the air. There's a lot of things that you can and can't say about it. And it doesn't have all the hard, like, we can say this, that, or whatever benefits to it. But again, I definitely notice a difference. And so I encourage people to at least try it and see what they experience from it. And so again, if you would like to check out any of the CBD products that Charlotte's Web makes, again, they're one of the best companies out there for this stuff. They make a good product. It's third-party tested. By the way, people, anyone listening, if you want to try a CBD gummy, short story here, kind of a funny story. I have a buddy who heard me on the podcast talking about CBD gummies. Okay. He's like, cool. So he's like, went to a little smoke shop up the street, and he's like, hey, guy, can I get some CBD gummies to try to go to sleep? And the guy looks at him. He said, nah, man, I got something better for you. And he gives him these gummies that have got like Delta 8, Delta 9, THCG or whatever, all this other stuff, right?
Like the synthetic stuff in it, right?
The synthetic stuff. Yeah. And so he's like, cool. So he takes him back and he goes home and he eats a couple of the gummies, right? And he should have eaten like probably like a half of one of those gummies. dude was on, he said he was in outer space for several hours, right?
Wow.
And so again, whereas if he'd eaten a CBD gummy, he may have felt like almost maybe like a body buzz or something, but you're just going to go to sleep and you're going to feel really relaxed. You're not going to be anxious. And because he said he got super anxious, was just like on edge for the whole day. So again, there's a lot of different compounds out there. Be smart with what you put in your body. And with CBD, that's one of those ones where, you know, if you're looking for CBD is great. There's even, if you live in one of the places that has THC is legal, you can have a small ratio between those, you know, but again, CBD is the thing that's going to help relax you. And again, that helps aid in that stuff. But anyway, if you want to check out Charlotte's Web's products, charlottesweb.com, promo code is Jiu-Jitsu30 for 30% off the order. And guys, as always, if you're looking for some new gear to wear, new t-shirts for jiu-jitsu, anything like that, check out my buddy's website, epicrollbjj.com. Matt is a jiu-jitsu black belt who makes gear for jiu-jitsu practitioners, right? So he's one of us supporting it. He has a what's the word? A passion for making cool stuff, trying to make cool designs. He enjoys doing it. He enjoys trying to do a good job of customer service and serve people well in the niche that we're in. And I think that he does a fantastic job. And so again, if you guys would like to get some new gear, check him out at epicrollbjj.com. If you are a grappler and you get into no-gi, I'm a huge fan of his no-gi gear. And so I recommend it all the time. He's got his newer shorts, which are shorter. Like they're not quite like, they're not Ranger panty softy shorts, but they're still short enough that they're nice and that they're mobile. And so again, you can get those shorts, get the rash guards, whatever else you want. But again, check out his stuff. And if you find something you like on his website at epicrollbjj.com, use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. You'll end up supporting the podcast. And again, it costs you nothing extra and you get a discount for it. And for anybody listening right now, you may hear an infant upstairs whining a little bit. He's probably getting sleepy or something like that, or maybe he's just getting cranky about something and fussy. He's teething right now. And I'm home today because I was still popping hot for the COVID. So I know I don't feel very sick, but I also don't want to risk getting anybody else sick. So I'm trying to be the responsible adult and just hang back a little bit.
That's right.
Even if I didn't have COVID, if it was like I was sick with the flu or I was still like had a cold, I would still do my part to like try to stay away from people. I think it's probably one of the only good things to come out of COVID was that people got a little bit more responsible, because I feel like before COVID, if you'd be like super sick, runny nose, and you're still trying to train and stuff, you're like, bro, go home. I used to hate that. Like when I would work in granted, sometimes, work, people don't have the time off, but I hated when it was like when I was working in a cubicle and some guy would come in, would be sick, and just like you could just tell they were feeling terrible. And you were like, it's only going to be like a matter of time before I get it. And then a couple days later, boom, you're sick, and it just works its way around the office. It was awful. But anyway, and it's even worse in the gym. I've sent people home before. I'm like just sick and everything else. I'm just like, go home, bro. Don't get the whole gym sick.
I know.
Your progress is not leaving you.
That's right.
But anyway, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, get an ad-free version of this podcast in case you don't like listening to these ad reads, and also get access to an exclusive library of content we've created that has everything from narrated roles, some breakdowns that I've done in the past that aren't released anywhere, warm-up routines from Eugene, also a full-length recording of one of my favorite seminars that I did in 2009, showing some of my best techniques, both in gi and no gi, and a lot more. With all the guests that we've ever had, a ton of stuff in there. You can get access to that for a very inexpensive price at patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. THE, you get it. The Jiu-Jitsu podcast.
That's right.
And guys, if you would like to get access to my daily email, where I share everything from books that I'm reading, training tips, ideas, philosophical ideas to chew on that you might find interesting, everything and more, you can do that by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. Once you join, I'll give you access to a couple of free ebooks that can assist you with your training using different drilling strategies, and also an ebook for your competition prep. And if you guys get that book or get those books and you like it, great. Get the email, enjoy it. If you don't like it, you don't have to stay subscribed. Every email has a little link. You can press that button and you can unsubscribe at any time. But otherwise, you can join the thousands of people that enjoy reading them emails or reading them. God bless, man. I just went country for a second.
Reading them emails.
Reading them emails, right? Getting to read them emails.
Good. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, man. So I hope you guys like that kind of stuff, because that's what I do. And appreciate you guys for being here today. And
it's more fun than knocking over a cow that's sleeping, standing up.
Yeah,
Is that
and
a
again,
thing?
I have no problem with anybody who does have like a country twang to them. I just grew up in the city, so I don't have a
I
country
feel like we
twang.
still have a country twang, even though
To
we
some
don't think we
people,
do. I think yes,
to some people.
people, yeah.
Although I will say this, most people, when they hear me speak, they do not think that I'm from Kentucky.
Where do
I've
they think you're
gotten
from?
They don't know. Like they just don't have a clue. They're because again, I don't really have there's a couple of words that I say
Yeah.
that give off an accent, or a couple of words that I say that are very like regionally specific to
Yeah.
Kentucky and Louisville. But for the most part, when people talk to me, I'll go to different places.
Yeah.
And it's been this way for a long time. And I've gone to places and they'll say, "Where are you from?" And I'll say, "I'm from Kentucky." And they're looking at me, really? Because when people think of Kentucky, they think of, the hills of Appalachia, Kentucky,
yeah.
right? And I'm like, that's only how a portion of the state sounds, right?
I've
Like we
got
don't
I've
all
got a
sound
fun
like that.
story. Fun story. My dad, who has a thick Russian accent, he
Uh-huh.
was in he was in New York visiting friends. I think he was in the airport or something, and somebody was talking to somebody. They go, "Where are you from?" He's like, "From Kentucky." And they go, "Oh, okay." Like, makes sense. He's got
Yeah.
this thick, he was just like, I guess where he was
Right.
traveling from is what they were asking.
Yeah.
But they're like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And I was like, "What?"
That's
So
hilarious.
anyway, yeah,
It's like because he has that, he obviously
thick Russian
Russian cat.
accent. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
obviously Russian guy. So you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, Kentucky, huh?" Like I'd be like, "Are you a secret agent or something? You can't tell me where
Yeah.
you're really from?"
Yeah.
I am
I think it
from
was just
Kentucky.
they're asking where he's traveling from. So you told them and they said, "Oh, makes sense." And I was like, "Oh, all right." That was funny. But anyway,
So
people are silly.
yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast today.
you
Hopefully
better
you
have.
got
Darn
some
it.
ideas from it, maybe some ideas to chew on, or just got entertained a little bit. And as always, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next week.